So the last time I talked about Jimmy Dore, I got ratioed to high hell in my video. For those of you who don't know, I did a video on the TYT versus Jimmy Dore drama and Kyle Kalinski's response to it. The video got massively downvoted and the people in the comments were roasting me for my take. Now, if you are a Jimmy Dore fan and you are watching this video, you don't have to like it, but all I ask is that if you are going to either dislike the video and or comment something, all I ask is that you watch the video to the end and just hear me out. So yesterday, Jimmy Dore went on Tucker Carlson's show, Tucker Carlson Today. And in my opinion, he gave very bad takes.
The conversation on the left revolves almost exclusively around identity, which is, in other words, me. Narcissism is about me.
All right. Now, this isn't about Jimmy. This is more about Tucker Carlson himself. And this is something that I've noticed. Tucker Carlson will complain about identity politics. However, he does not get to complain about identity politics because he does the exact same thing himself. But he does it for white identity politics. What I mean is that Tucker Carlson is somebody who has, over the years, posted and done and said very problematic takes that are basically just white nationalist takes. So I'm just going to give you one example. There's countless others. Basically, for context, the Great Replacement Theory is this idea that an elite group of people, whether it be Jews, Marxists, whoever, are controlling demographics, and they are purposely changing the demographics so that there are more minority people in America, and they are doing that for political gain, power gain, and they are doing it to hurt the white race. That is what the Great Replacement Theory is. White nationalists and white supremacists and Nazis believe in that. And Tucker Carlson, back in April, just gave that exact same take. Here's the take. I'm just going to do it my best Tucker Carlson impression. It's a voting rights question. In a democracy, one person equals one vote. If you change the population, you dilute the political power of the people who live there. So every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter. And he continues, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement. If you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots with new people, more obedient voters from the third world, but they become hysterical because that's what's happening. Actually, let's just say it. That's true. Literally just the Great Replacement Theory and white nationalist rhetoric on TV. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because Tucker Carlson likes to have it both ways. On one hand, he likes to say, oh, identity politics is stupid, BLM has gone too far, yada, yada, yada. But then on the other hand, he fear-mongers and just makes things up about the danger that, immigration and demographics changes poses on America. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, but you kept talking about economics. That used to be the central conversation on the left, or in America, actually.
Yeah.
Why no more?
Because the establishment has learned how to co-opt identity politics to put the brakes on economic progress and justice. So the joke I do. So if you want to help, I would say if you want to help black people, nothing would help them more than free college, student loan relief, and Medicare for all, and a living wage.
Okay, so here's my issue with, I guess, that take. It's more so that it enables this idea that identity politics doesn't matter at all and that it should be completely put to the wayside. Now, I get it. Is it true that corporations do co-opt identity politics for their own gain, but at the end of the day, they don't really care about the said issue? Yeah, it's obvious. If you saw on Pride Month, some of the companies would modify their logos to have the rainbow flag in countries where LGBTQ people are accepted, but in countries where LGBTQ rights are not popular and in fact are unpopular, they kept their logos the same. However, my contention is that doesn't mean now that LGBTQ rights, civil rights should be completely put to the wayside just because some corporations decide to cynically take advantage of those causes for their own economic gain. He just sort of gives into this idea, this class reductionist idea, that civil rights should be completely ignored because some corporations will take advantage of it. I completely disagree.
You want to help them? That would be the way to help them. But Joe Biden comes in, does none of those things, but he makes Juneteenth a holiday.
Medicare for all, free college, all those things would go a long way in helping not just black people, but other people in minority groups. That is true. However, if the left is unable to stand up for black people, trans people, gay people, other minority groups, then advocating for those economic policies which are good becomes pointless, because you end up losing your government to people who A, wouldn't implement those policies, but B, would harm those communities. In order for us to be in a place where we can get Medicare for all and free college, we have to win the civil rights battle. And if people like Tucker Carlson can go on ranting about critical race theory and sort of using white identity politics to keep the left from power, then our political advocacy becomes meaningless. So we need to speak up on those issues. Yes, call out the corporations who cynically exploit identity politics, but also call out the right-wingers who do the same thing, fear-mongering about CRT, BLM, LGBTQ people, and that sort of thing.
So do you understand what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do understand.
So it's all signals, but there's no substance. We're signaling that we want to help the minority community, but we're not actually helping them. So that's what identity politics is. It's a big diversion. And the joke I say, if it was 1860, the Democrats would be bragging about their first transgendered slave owner. And so what I'm trying to tell people is that when you vote for them, when you vote for somebody inside the Democratic Party, no matter what they say, no matter what they believe, they're going to go along with Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi goes along with Goldman Sachs and Raytheon. So when you're voting for someone inside the Democratic Party, you're voting for Goldman Sachs and Raytheon because they are not standing up to those people. So the idea that we have progressives inside the Democratic Party, it's actually more deleterious to the progressive movement to have them there. Why is that, Jimmy? Because it gives people a false impression that there's somebody in government fighting for you, that there's one of the parties that are kind of on your side, and they aren't. And the quicker people realize that both parties are not on their side, they only serve the oligarchy. We are, in fact, in an oligarchy. Your democracy was stolen way before Trump. Until that happens, we won't ever have real change.
Having AOC in Congress is huge for the left. Having Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, having the Justice Democrats in Congress is fundamentally important because it pushes the Overton window left. Now, is it true that the people in Congress, the leadership, like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they're not as left as AOC and Ilhan Omar? Yes, that is obviously true. However, having AOC and others like her in Congress is important, because once again, it pushes the conversation to a place where we can get Medicare for all, where we can get free college, where we can get a living wage, and we can get all of these important policies implemented. We have more leftists now in Congress than we ever have, really. And that is because they are helping pushing the Overton window left, therefore helping getting more politicians who are on the left elected. And this has in turn also resulted in policies that are further left now than they were 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Chuck Schumer just agreed to do free community college and free universal pre-K, along with other things in that $3.5 trillion infrastructure deal. Now we have to wait to see if that actually passes, but if it does, that only got accomplished because Bernie Sanders and AOC were there, pushing the conversation to a place where it needed to be. It took me a long time to realize this, but Jimmy Dore's whole political advocacy is to take disenfranchised people who are amicable to left-wing politics, take them and sort of dilute their time and attention away from meaningful political advocacy. Whether that be him making them so cynical that they decide not to do electoralism at all, or worse yet, giving them the delusion that Tucker Carlson, Trump, and the Boogaloo Boys, working with them is a more realistic path to getting change than electing leftists like AOC. And that idea fundamentally is dangerous, this notion of a red-brown alliance. And Jimmy Dore's political advocacy has been pushing that. Tucker Carlson is not our ally.
But what about Ocasio-Cortez? She's on Instagram.
Ocasio-Cortez campaigned on a floor vote on Medicare for all. And she campaigned on creating what she called a ruckus meaning you have to stop being polite. This is a quote. You have to stop being polite. We tried being polite, and it got us nowhere. And it wasn't until we started acting out and speaking impolitely that we even created the circumstances for change. That's what she tweeted. So I'm just doing what she said. So I started to put heat on people like AOC.
If you look at the way that Washington, D.C. works, unfortunately, is you have to court favor with politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They're the ones with the power. They're the ones with the ability to enact change. So being on their good side is what's important. So if you see a pattern where all the people who have been electorally successful in getting to office have changed their attitude, what does that mean? Either are they sellouts who gave into the system? I don't think so. I think that they realized that the most effective strategy for implementing change is by not being completely mean to Nancy Pelosi and by trying to court as much favor as possible. You can have criticisms with that strategy, as sometimes it doesn't give us the results that we want. But change takes a long time. And in order for us to get these bold, transformative policies on the ground, political advocacy has to be done not just by AOC, but by voters putting pressure on the politicians, doing things like nicely calling their office and saying, hey, could you support this policy? Or peaceful protests. That's how you get real political change and get the transformative policies. That's how it was done in the civil rights movement. Pressure has to be put on the politicians who are not necessarily on the side of Medicare for all, but they could be persuaded to with just enough pressure. Putting all your hopes into one politician and just saying, all we have to do is get you elected and that's it. The work goes beyond that. And I just want to say for the record that on top of that, AOC's attitude and all the other Justice Democrats has softened, but at the same time, I have seen them sufficiently call out Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats when they do disagree.
And Rashid Tlaib and Ro Khanna and all the Justice Democrats in the squad to force the vote. And they said I was committing violence against them with my words. That's how scared they got.
Were you?
That's how scared. You really telling them to do what they ran on? That's violence? That's how afraid they were. And all the things. So they had people write hit pieces on me in the Daily New York Magazine, Newsweek, BuzzFeed. They tried to shut me down and squelch me. They made me trend on Twitter negatively. But they couldn't shut me up. And they couldn't stop me. And they don't know what to do with me. Because, again, all the usual, they have Wikipedia putting smears on me that I can't get rid of. CNN's calling me. It's unbelievable what's going on. Just a comedian, a pothead comedian in his garage, what you can do when you want to tell the truth inside journalism and politics. And you can create a ruckus. And I did. And so now everybody sees that those people are fakers and they're corrupt. And the reason why I say they're corrupt is not because they take corporate money and do the bidding of corporations, but they're doing the bidding of their own career, right? Their own self-dealing.
Yeah.
Before I get to the main point here that Jimmy Dore just went through, I just want to say that I think these two ideas that Jimmy Dore presents are very contradictory. On one hand, he just says, I'm a comedian, man. Don't take anything I say too seriously. And I think the reason why he does that is to evade accountability for anything that he says which is wrong or anything that people disagree with him on. He just falls back to that. But then on the other hand, when he wants you to take him seriously, he says, I'm a real journalist. No one else is telling you the truth. The squad is corrupt. They are sold out. So is the mainstream media writing hit pieces on me. And this is something that demagogues do. They find a scapegoat to blame problems on, and then they point to that scapegoat even though they aren't the cause of your problems. And they also present this idea of themselves like, I'm the only one who could solve your problems. And I'm the only one telling you the truth. Which is it, Jimmy? Can we not take any of your words seriously? Or are you this grand truth teller? Well, the answer is that we shouldn't take you seriously. At least I don't take you seriously, because you are a madman. And I'm going to get to the clip that Jimmy Dore was talking about where he says, oh, they're exaggerating. I'm just holding politicians accountable. They said I was threatening AOC and that I was causing violence. How crazy. And I remember the clip, which is why I spent a little time digging for it. This was back around December when the whole Force the Vote saga happened. Now, you can make a determination for yourself as to whether or not you think here he's being irrational or causing violence. But I've already made that determination for myself the moment I saw this clip back then, and I still hold to that opinion today. And I'll explain my opinion after the clip.
And this is to keep you from health care. That's what this is. This is to keep you from health care because she's a gutless wonder who will not do what she promised. And you don't get her to do what you want her to do by being fucking nice to her. You get her to do what she's supposed to do by ripping her to shreds, which is what I'm doing right fucking now because she has it coming. And it's not just her. They all do. She's the only one engaging on Twitter, which is why she's getting it. What it takes is courage from gutless wonders like you, AOC, you fucking phony. And you're revealing yourself. And I am just writing it down. We are category. You're doing it. And we're marking it. This is her outing herself as a gaslighting motherfucker because you're broken, because you're corrupted and co-opted. And now we got to lay on you as hard as we can. Everybody sees through you. Everybody sees through you. You don't think people see you? You don't think people see what you're doing? You don't think everyone knows that you got your start on my show? You don't think everyone knows what you are now? Some people are having a hard time actually admitting it to themselves, but they know. They know. These are just regular people outing AOC left and fucking right. She's got 10 million sycophants, and she's still getting owned on fucking Twitter. 10 million followers she has. 10 million. And she can't force a Medicare for all vote? She is not fighting for you, and she's doing it again. She's fucking gaslighting you into thinking you can't have a vote on Medicare for all, and she is doing it at the top of her lungs. And go on Twitter and fucking give it to her. We're going to fucking haunt you. And we are not letting you off the hook. And we'll primary your ass if you don't fucking do this. What's the point? We could have Joe Crowley not do Medicare for all, or we could have you not do Medicare for all. We could have Joe Crowley vote with Nancy Pelosi, or we could have you vote with Nancy Pelosi. She's saying we're going to make it harder for them. Oh, we're going to make it harder for you, AOC. We're going to make it harder for you.
I just want to get to this idea that AOC is the only reason why we don't have Medicare for all. And I just want to say that just because you have 10 million Twitter followers doesn't mean that you can implement Medicare for all. That is a policy that requires the approval of the House, the Senate, and the President. And getting that policy right now, unfortunately, will not happen because Joe Biden is against Medicare for all. And there are at least 10 other Senate Democrats that I can name who are also against Medicare for all. And all Republicans in all those chambers are against Medicare for all, along with half of the Democrats in the House. So what that means is AOC isn't the reason why we don't have Medicare for all. It's because other politicians aren't in favor of it, which is why we have to do the work to get it. Now, I want you to imagine you're walking on the street and somebody comes at you with the same attitude that Jimmy Dore comes out with AOC. They're just yelling at you. They're calling you a gutless wonder, sellout. How would you feel if somebody came up to you and did that? Do you think you would be convinced by their arguments? Would you come to their side? The answer is no. If somebody came to me on the street like that, you know what I would do? I would run away because this is unhinged. Sorry, that's thunder. Anyway, Jimmy Dore is downplaying this clip, and this is what AOC called violence, and I think it's fair to call that violence because it's hostile. It's something that any normal person, if Jimmy Dore was talking about them, would feel fear and would think, whoa, what is going on here? Jimmy Dore is unhinged. And you want to know why? Because he is. This is lunacy. And I don't know if this is something because Jimmy Dore is naturally like this, or if this is just a character that he's playing to drum up controversy on the left. And I lean a little bit towards the second, because there's no way somebody could actually believe that having 10 million followers on Twitter can get us Medicare for all. This clip here is the one that he's talking about with Tucker Carlson, just downplaying it. And I think any reasonable person would want to downplay this clip. This is literally just him being unhinged. Jimmy Dore is just a reactionary grifter playing up drama for clicks. The point of doing this segment is that I don't have a problem with anyone on the left going on Tucker Carlson's show to disagree with him and to challenge his ideas. But the problem that I do have is with Jimmy Dore, somebody who I don't even think is on the left, going on to promote himself and whine about identity politics and whine about AOC, giving the right arguments that aren't even true to write off the most left politicians that we have in government right now. He went on Tucker Carlson's show to promote himself and not talk about any sort of serious left-wing advocacy. The only time was, oh yeah, I support Medicare for all, yada yada yada. But then he used that as a point to dismiss identity politics, which is important. We need to get civil rights. Ultimately, though, I think that this appearance wasn't good, and it speaks to a greater trend that I've seen in Jimmy Dore's content, which is disaffecting leftists, and worse yet, forming a red-brown alliance, which not only wouldn't bring left-wing policies, but would destroy any chance of doing any sort of meaningful left-wing advocacy in this country. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you. It really means a lot to me. If you're the Jimmy Dore fan that I was talking about at the beginning and you still come off not liking this video, alright, so be it. Dislike, comment me, ratio me to oblivion. But at least thank you for listening to the end. For those of you who are new to Small Room Report, if you found this video entertaining or informative, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more great content. All the platforms I have are in the description of this segment. Have a great day.